My coworkers' harmless jokes about my body turned into a nightmare, and I finally snapped. My name is Chloe. I've always been painfully, acutely aware of my own body, a consciousness that feels less like inhabiting a form and more like being a perpetual tenant in a space that draws the wrong kind of attention. At 163 centimeters and 55 kilograms, my figure is what my conservative, deeply traditional Italian mother would call formosa in a hushed, slightly ashamed tone, a word that implied bounty but came with a weight of expectation and judgment. Growing up in our small, sun-bleached town in Puglia, where modesty was woven into the fabric of daily life as tightly as the lace on the nana's curtains, my body felt like a constant, loud, and embarrassing betrayal of that sacred value. I was a discordant note in a symphony of subdued femininity. I moved to London for a fresh start, a desperate grasp at anonymity in a city of millions, and through a mix of luck and late-night portfolio polishing, I landed a job as a junior graphic designer at Verve, a trendy digital agency known for its sleek offices and even sleeker clientele. That's where I met Zoe. Zoe was, from the very first moment, everything I wasn't. She was brash where I was reticent, blindingly confident where I was hesitant, wildly and effortlessly outgoing where I had to psych myself up for a team lunch. She was built like a runway model, willowy, elegantly and unapologetically flat-chested, with a collarbone that looked carved from marble. She wore crisp, architectural clothing that hung on her frame like contemporary art. She took me under her wing on my first day, a trembling new girl lost in a sea of exposed brick and industrial lighting, and I was pathetically, overwhelmingly grateful. She was celebrated in the office as the unfiltered free spirit, the one who voiced the outrageous things everyone else only thought, her laughter a ringing bell that gave permission for others to join in. I mistook that performative honesty for authenticity, her loud attention for genuine friendship. It was a misjudgment that would cost me years of peace. The comment started not with a bang, but with a series of tiny, precise paper cuts, always expertly disguised as compliments or just our banner, a label that made any objection seem like a failure of humor on my part. God, Chloe, that wrap dress is working for you, she exclaimed in the open-plan office, her voice carrying. I wish I had something to actually put in a dress like that, though, honestly, between you and me, the back pain and the cost of specialized bras must be a killer. No thanks, I'll stick to my bralettes. Or, she'd sigh dramatically while we were browsing online shops during a lunch break, her cursor hovering over a delicate silk camisole. Look at this. It's so classy. So refined. You can't really wear stuff like that, can you? It'd just look, well, provocative. Such a shame it's beautiful. The implication hung in the air. The garment was beautiful. I would corrupt it. She had a dedicated folder on her phone, it seemed, for memes about the big boob struggle. Cartoons of women using their chests as a desk, getting stuck in turnstiles, or causing traffic accidents. These would ping into our private chat with a crying, laughing emoji. When I go quiet, my smile stiff, she'd nudge me and laugh. Oh, come on, don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. We're friends. I'm allowed to tease you. The resentment festered in me, a slow-growing vine of shame and anger. I'd watch her glide into the office in a stark, tailored white shirt, looking like the ascetic CEO of a minimalist startup, every line clean and professional. Meanwhile, I swam in a sea of tent-like blouses and oversized cardigans, my professional armor designed to render me invisible to avoid any and all unwanted attention. My wardrobe was a monument to concealment, dark colors, stiff fabrics, strategic draping. I tried to shrink within them. I hinted first with a weak, not really my favorite topic, Zoe. Then more directly, Zoe, please, I really don't like talking about my body. Can we drop it? She'd offer a theatrical, wide-eyed apology, promise fervently to stop, and then, like clockwork, a week or two later, A fresh, creative joke would emerge, often in a group setting to maximize my discomfort. Then came the global shift to remote work. At first, it felt like a liberation, a divine intervention. In the privacy of my own small London flat, with only my cat as a witness, I could finally exhale. No more polyester tents, no more strategic layering. I could just be one sweltering Tuesday in July, the city simmering in an unexpected heat wave. I had a small, private victory. I opened my drawer and bypassed the usual baggy uniform. I put on a simple, well-made, fitted navy blue top. It wasn't low-cut. It wasn't made of questionable material. It was just normal. It fit me. It followed my lines without apology. For the first time since joining Verve, I didn't feel like I was hiding behind a curtain of fabric on a video call. Our morning team check-in had 8 of us, a mosaic of little video squares. We were midway through a project update from our lead, David, when Zoe's video square lit up. She'd been on mute, and now her face filled my screen with a wide, performative grin that didn't reach her eyes. "Bloody hell, Chloe," she chirped, her voice a cheerful scalpel slicing through David's technical jargon. The meeting froze. All other video squares seemed to hold their breath. Having a personal heat wave, are we? Or are you trying to start a completely different kind of morning meeting? Good grief. Save some for the rest of us. A beat of dead, echoing air. I saw my own face on the screen, the color draining from it in real time. Mark, a young, impressionable sales guy, let out an uncomfortable, choked snort that he quickly tried to mask as a cough. The others, Anya, Priya, Ben, David, were frozen in various states of shock and acute discomfort. David's brow furrowed deeply. My screen, my sanctuary, had become a public stockade. The walls of my flat, once a refuge, now felt like they were pressing in, amplifying the silence. I felt every inch of my skin ignite with a humiliation so profound and familiar it stole the air from my lungs. It was a feeling of every schoolyard taunt, every disapproving glance of my aunts, every time I'd change for gym class in a toilet stall, all condensed into one excruciating moment, broadcast to my colleagues. I think my connection is bad. I stammered, my voice a thin, reedy ghost of itself, and my finger, trembling violently, jabbed at the leave meeting button. I didn't move to my chair. I slid off it and sat on the floor, my back against the cool wall, whole body shaking. The hot, silent tears I'd bottled for years finally broke free, streaming down my face in a torrent of rage and shame. I cried for the young girl who'd been told to stand up straight, but not too straight, for the woman who dressed in the dark to avoid her own reflection, for the professional who felt her body undermine her mind before she even spoke. For 30 minutes, I was adrift in this storm. Then my phone rang, vibrating against the wooden floor like an angry insect. The screen glowed. Zoe. A cold, clear fury began to solidify amidst the panic. I answered. I didn't speak. "Chloe, you okay?" You dropped off really suddenly. Her voice was laced with fake, sugary concern. That was the match. The dam holding back 5 years of my mother's disapproving glances, every lewd comment from strangers on the tube, every time I bought a beautiful dress only to return it because it didn't look right, every snide meme, every backhanded compliment, all shattered. You vicious, jealous little witch. I screamed, the sound raw and alien in my own throat. Do you get your kicks from this? Is your life so spectacularly empty that you have to mind my insecurities for your pathetic, daily dose of amusement? I am sick of you. I am sick of your fake, plastic friendship and your constant, nasty little jabs wrapped up in a smile. You are a toxic, miserable person, and you want everyone else to be miserable with you. Go to hell, Zoe. Just go to hell and leave me the fuck alone. I ranted. I cried. I listed with shocking clarity Every single comment, every meme, every time she made me feel like a walking, talking caricature instead of a person. I described the shame of shopping, the dread of summer, the constant calculus of clothing. It was a 10-minute tirade of pure, undiluted catharsis. Then I hung up. I blocked her number. My hand wouldn't stop trembling, but now it was with the aftershock of release, not just fear. For 2 days, there was a deafening silence. No messages, no emails. I worked in a state of heightened anxiety, jumping at every notification. Then it arrived, an email from our HR department with a chillingly formal subject line. Invitation to a formal discussion. Concerns raised regarding workplace conduct. My blood, which had just begun to warm again, turned to ice water in my veins. Panicked, my heart hammering against my ribs, I called Ben. He was a senior designer, pragmatic, well-liked, and had always been kind to me. He answered after a few rings, his usual easy tone replaced by hesitation. Chloe, hi. Look, I was going to call you. A long pause. Zoe's been talking. A lot. She's telling people. She's saying you've been bullying her for months, mocking her for being boyish and flat-chested, making her feel insecure about her appearance. She says her comment in the meeting was just her finally snapping back after enduring all your abuse. She's filed a formal complaint with HR. She's told them you created a hostile work environment for her. The world tilted on its axis. The audacity was breathtaking. Ben, you know that's not true. You were there. You heard what she said. I know, he said, his voice low and serious. And so do Anya and Priya. David, too. But Chloe, she's been working the room, having quiet chats, flirting with the lads in the sales team, playing the vulnerable victim. She's good at it, and she's gone to HR first. That matters. You need to get your side in order. Now. The betrayal morphed from a sharp sting into a deep, throbbing ache. This wasn't just bullying anymore. This was a calculated, preemptive, and malicious campaign of character assassination. My shyness, my aversion to conflict, my desire to just be liked, they had been meticulously weaponized against me. I could hear my mother's voice, her lifelong mantra, non fair sine chiara, SII semper educata. Don't make a scene. Always be polite. That voice had silenced me for a lifetime. In that moment, staring at the HR email, I made a conscious, furious decision to strangle it. I spent the entire night combing through every digital interaction we'd ever had. My phone's memory became a crime scene I was finally brave enough to examine. There they were, the memes, the jokey comments in our WhatsApp chat, stretching back over a year. I searched my work email. Bingo! There were messages from months back where I politely, painfully tried to set a boundary. Hey, Zoe. Love the coffee catch-up. Just a wee thing. Maybe tone down the boob jokes a bit. I'm a bit sensitive about it, grinning face with sweat, thanks. She'd replied, OMG, you're so sensitive. Fine, whatever. Didn't realize you were so fragile. Hugs and kisses. I screenshot everything. I compiled a digital dossier. I wrote a meticulous timeline, a forensic account that started with the first compliment in the office kitchen and ended with a video call ambush. I reached out to Ben, Anya, and Priya without hesitation. They agreed to provide written statements about Zoe's behavior in the meeting and her general pattern of derogatory comments. Their solidarity was a lifeline. The HR meeting was a virtual tribunal. Zoe, connected from her impeccably styled home office with artfully arranged bookshelves in the background, looked pale, drawn, and tragically solemn. I presented my dossier calmly, sharing my screen to walk Mrs. Albrecht, the stern and unreadable HR representative, through the evidence. I explained the context of my upbringing, my admitted sensitivity, and my repeated, documented requests for behavior to stop. I played the calm, clear recording I had made of my follow-up call with Ben, legal in the UK with one-party consent, where he confirmed the events of the meeting and Zoe's subsequent smear campaign. Zoe's defense was a masterclass in manipulative narrative control. She cried, genuine-looking tears that tracked down her cheeks. She spoke softly, haltingly, about how she'd always seen me as a shy little sister she was trying to bring out of her shell, that her jokes were just our unique dynamic, born of affection. She claimed my volcanic outburst was proof of my aggressive and volatile temperament, and that for nearly a year I'd been making subtle, cutting remarks about her lack of curves, making her feel unfeminine, ugly, and invisible. She presented no evidence, no screenshots, no witnesses, no corroborating messages. Just her tears, her wavering voice, and vague, unverifiable accusations. When it was my turn to respond, I consciously channeled all my emotion into a cold, steely calm. My voice was steady, each word measured. Mrs. Albrecht, this is not about interpreting a single off-color joke, I said, looking directly into my webcam. This is about a sustained, documented campaign of humiliation targeting a physical characteristic I have been sensitive about since adolescence. I have provided contemporaneous evidence of that campaign. I have provided evidence of me repeatedly and politely asking for it to stop. Her response was to escalate it dramatically in front of our entire team in a professionally humiliating way. And when I finally, after years of provocation, had an emotional reaction in private, her response has been to maliciously falsify events and fabricate allegations to portray herself as the victim. This is textbook retaliatory behavior and defamation. It is a deliberate attempt to derail this investigation and avoid accountability. Mrs. Albrecht's lips pressed into a thin, uncompromising line. She thanked us both, stated the investigation was ongoing, and that we were both to have no contact with each other outside of essential work communication. The process, she warned, would take time. The week that followed was a form of purgatory. The office, even a virtual one, has its own ecosystem of gossip. Whispers were inevitable. I kept my head down, buried myself in work, and leaned on the small group who knew the truth. Then I got a call from Anya, whose former flatmate was now friends with Zoe's roommate. Her voice was tinged with uneasy sympathy. "Chloe, listen. I heard something. Zoe's had a massive, apparently full-blown anxiety attack. She's been signed off sick by her doctor. Her roommate says she's a complete mess, crying constantly, not eating. She's asking if there's a way you consider dropping the HR thing. She'll drop her complaint immediately. She's saying it was all a huge misunderstanding, a stress-induced disagreement between friends. She just wants to move to a different team and put it all behind her, a clean slate." For a long, heavy moment, I wavered. I have had panic attacks before. The feeling of your own body betraying you, the sheer animal terror, the sensation of drowning on dry land. It's horrific. The idea that I might be the catalyst of that level of suffering in another person, even one who had hurt me so deeply, felt morally weighty, almost cruel. Maybe this was a universe offering an off-ramp. Maybe I should be the bigger person, take the high road, let it go, accept a peaceful resolution where I never had to interact with her again. Wasn't that what I wanted? Peace? That night, I video called Ben. I laid out the proposal, my voice thick with conflict. He listened quietly. Then his face, usually so open and friendly, hardened. "Don't you dare," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Chloe, listen to me. She showed you not 1 ounce of mercy. Not when she humiliated you in front of peers. Not when she lied about you to cover her own tracks. She tried to destroy your professional reputation, to paint you as an abuser, to save her own skin. Her panic attack is a direct consequence of being caught in a lie and facing accountability, not a symptom of genuine remorse or a misunderstanding. If you drop this now, what message does it send? That she can engage in systematic harassment, and when called out, she can play the mental health card, smear her victim, and the worst consequence is a lateral transfer to another team? That's not justice. That's a blueprint for her to do it to someone else. His words were a bucket of cold water, shocking me back to clarity. He was right. The sympathy that had begun to cloud my judgment evaporated, burned away by the memory of her smug grin on that video call, by the lies she'd spread about me. I drafted a short, firm email to Mrs. Albrecht and my manager, David. I stated that I would not be withdrawing my formal complaint, that I believed the evidence spoke for itself, and that I sought a resolution based on the facts presented, not a mutual withdrawal that would obscure the truth. The final, clarifying twist came 2 days later. Anya called me again, her voice now shaking not with sympathy, but with raw anger. I spoke to Zoe. I tried, God help me, to be a peacemaker, to see if we could find some common ground. Chloe, she is utterly unhinged. She said you deserve to feel like a slut because of how you constantly dress for attention. She mocked your Italian background, said you were probably used to catcalls and leers from men in piazzas, and that you encouraged it. She said the only reason Ben and the others were on your side was because you flaunted yourself and they were thinking with their dicks. And she admitted, laughing, that she was the one who started that rumor last year about you and Klein from the Frankfurt count, the one that got so nasty. Any remaining shred of doubt, any lingering what if, died instantly and completely. This wasn't just cruelty born of insecurity. This was pure, unadulterated, gleeful malice. She enjoyed my pain. She reveled in sabotaging me. I felt a strange, powerful calm settle over me, the calm of absolute certainty. I thanked Anya, asked if I could share a summary of this conversation with HR, with her explicit permission, and she agreed immediately, disgusted by what she'd heard. This new testimony was no longer about a pattern of jokes. It was a window into Zoe's character, revealing the spiteful engine driving her behavior. The outcome after this was swift and decisive. HR's investigation concluded that Zoe was in violation of multiple company policies on harassment, bullying, and creating a hostile work environment. The severity of her false and retaliatory accusations massively compounded the breach of trust. They presented her with a choice: accept a final written warning, which would remain on her record for 2 years, undergo mandatory sensitivity and professionalism training, and be subject to close behavioral monitoring, or accept a negotiated resignation agreement. She chose to resign. The bland, all-staff email from HR announced that Zoe was leaving Verve to pursue new opportunities. Her exit narrative, spun to a select few in private messages, was that she'd been pushed out by a toxic clique and a false accusation she couldn't fight. But the people whose opinions mattered, my immediate team, my manager David, even the senior leadership who'd been briefed, knew the unvarnished truth. Ben, Anya, and Priya took me out for a celebratory and socially distanced drink in a pub garden. We always knew she was a bit of a storm, Anya said, squeezing my hand, her expression earnest, a force of nature. But we're just so sorry you had to weather the full hurricane alone for as long as you did. The relief that washed over me in the following weeks was seismic, transformative. I could breathe deeply for what felt like the first time in years. The constant, low-grade anxiety of waiting for her next jab was gone. In its place, a new space opened up, a space for me. I began, tentatively at first, to change my relationship with my own wardrobe. I didn't go on a shopping spree for revealing clothes. I invested in a few key, beautifully tailored pieces that actually fit my body, that honored its shape rather than denying it. A structured blazer that nipped in at the waist, trousers cut for curves, a few simple tops and luxurious fabrics that felt good against my skin. I didn't wear them for anyone else's gaze. I wore them for my own sense of dignity and competence. The deep-rooted shame my mother had planted in Zoe's cruelty had began, slowly but surely, to wither and die, replaced by a fragile but growing sense of ownership. And Ben, our professional camaraderie, forged in the fire of that conflict, gently blossomed into something more. We went on a proper date. It was easy fun, filled with laughter that felt light and unburdened. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw Chloe reflected in his eyes. The witty, talented graphic designer who loved terrible 80s sci-fi movies, had strong opinions about typography, and made a truly sublime carbonara. Not a collection of problematic body parts. Not a rival, not a victim. Just Chloe. The final chapter was a quiet, almost anticlimactic one. Months later, I received a LinkedIn notification. Zoe, last name, viewed your profile. My heart didn't even skip a beat. Out of morbid curiosity, I clicked on hers. Her profile showed she'd taken a mid-level design role at a smaller, less prestigious agency across town. The headline was eager, brimming with her trademark force enthusiasm. I felt nothing. No simmering anger. No thirst for schadenfreude. Not even pity. It was a pure, neutral indifference of a closed door, a story definitively ended. She was simply a person who used to be in my life, and no longer was. I learned a brutal but essential lesson from the entire ordeal. Not all cruelty is loud and obvious. Some of it arrives softly, wrapped in the glittering paper of friendship, and delivered with a smiling, just joking tag. It's a slow poison, designed to make you doubt your own perceptions, to question whether your pain is valid. And I learned that sometimes the quietest person in the room holds the loudest, most powerful roar inside them, waiting for the moment when the cost of silence finally outweighs the fear of using their voice. Finding and unleashing that roar didn't just get me justice. It shattered the cage I had lived in for years. It didn't just give me back my reputation. It gave me back to myself wholly and unapologetically. I am no longer just a tenant in this body. I am its owner. And the lease, finally, is permanent.